Hey guys, welcome back into Fox Local. My name is Judea Murray. We're joined with a special guest this time around. I know a lot of you guys may be logging into social media, maybe even LinkedIn, and it kind of feels like a giant cemetery of jobs. Fortunately, a lot of people are going through job loss, whether it's because they have been fired or maybe they've just been laid off with some of the cuts that are going around. And we want to make sure that you understand that losing your job doesn't mean you have to lose your confidence. And so we are joined with a best-selling author and a leadership expert to talk to us a little bit more about how to maintain that confidence. Dr. Margie Warl, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be with you.
So let me start with a quote. I'm going to read it to make sure I don't get it wrong. Rejection isn't a referendum on your value. It's a mismatch, not a verdict. You said that, and I feel like we just saged this entire stream. But why is it so important and so powerful to make that kind of distinction when you're in the middle of job loss?
Because it is so easy to over-personalize it and conflate our employment status and our loss of a job or rejection, if we're applying for a job, with our own self-worth. And it's just crucial for us to distinguish the two. Our worth is not defined by our job status. And yet, when you are in the midst of a period where you've been laid off or you find yourself continually not landing a job and you're in the job market, it's really easy to feel like, this is a referendum on your worth. And so that is just the number one thing that you have to keep in mind so that you don't let it define you.
Yeah, and I will say I tend to understand and feel for people who are going through this situation because let's face it, for a lot of us, our jobs are a huge part of our identity. We're at work most of the time during the day. And so what's one of the biggest mistakes do you think people make emotionally within the first 24 hours of hearing that they've lost their job?
Well, I think firstly, we need to give ourselves 24 hours to feel whatever we're feeling. Give yourself some time to just process that. Maybe you're feeling hurt. Maybe you're feeling rejected. Maybe you're feeling angry. There may be, maybe you've got a sense of, this is unjust. It shouldn't have happened to me, etc. Maybe you're feeling humiliated. So our emotions aren't always rational, but they are real. And we don't want to linger in negative emotions that deflate us and keep us stuck and feeling small. But we do need to give them space to just do their thing. So feel whatever you're feeling. Give yourself 24 hours to just feel deflated, have a cry. That's what I might do. Feel what you're feeling, but then put a time cap on it. Because this isn't about toxic positivity and being all positive and pretending it's all good. No, it is about saying, I'm going to give myself space to be real, to be human. You're not a robot, but I'm not going to stay in that space. Now I'm going to move into learning mode. Now I'm going to move into, okay, now what? How do I find the gift in this situation? Maybe even utilize it to reset my sails, to refine what I'm doing, or to think about how can I put myself out there back in the market in a way that represents the value that I have to bring more accurately.
Mm-hmm. A beautiful way to put that. I loved the fact that you said, you are not a robot. You're allowed to feel. Just keep it to that 24 hours. Another thing that you have recommended is asking for feedback after you find out you've lost your job. And that's asking for people to kind of dust off that bruised ego. But it is important. That's not intimidating. Why should we do that? And how should we approach that kind of conversation?
Yes, you may have a bruised ego, and that's understandable, as I said, but don't miss this opportunity to get anything you can to better yourself. You might not even agree with the feedback, and you might not even get the feedback, but ask for feedback in such a way that makes it easier for people to give it. Often people don't want to give feedback. They feel awkward. It's hard. I don't want to hurt your feelings more. I just rather not have to talk about it. So ask it in a way that is very forward and developmentally focused. I would just love anything, like one thing that you think that I could focus on that will set me up to be more successful in my next position, that will help me be more effective, that will help me be the kind of person people would want to have on their team. Instead of kind of like how could you have done this, or being sulky about it. Just try and get what you can from the person who's been in a decision-making role, just so that you can use that to do better and to grow. And often we're not aware. We often have blind spots. None of us see ourselves as other people see us. Often there's a mismatch. We mightn't fully see how we're being perceived and we show up. And of course, if you just say, is there anything I could do better? That may be hard for them to answer, because they might actually have 10 things they think you could work on. So if you only ask for one, what's one thing I could do more of? Or what's one thing that you think that I could do less of? It actually makes it easier for them to just zoom in and narrow in on something specific that you could focus on.
Mm-hmm. That is a good one. I know for myself, I have definitely been there. Sometimes you have to get out of yourself. And I think there's power sometimes too in accepting that maybe you played a role, finding out what that role could be, and then like you said, how to fix it, move forward, and get that next job.
Yeah. Well, I just want to jump in on something you said there. Often we don't want to get the feedback because we don't want to hear the feedback. And as hard as it is to be laid off or to be rejected from a job, or, that you're going for, it's even harder to learn lessons, because we all have a deeply etched instinct for preserving our identity. And it's much easier to lay blame and go, they're a bunch of idiots, they don't know what they're doing, than it is to go, maybe there's something I did that contributed to this, or I didn't do inadvertently, unconsciously, unwittingly. And that's why there is so much value in asking that question. But not only the feedback has value, but it also demonstrates to someone that you have a growth mindset, that you're committed to doing better and growing as a human, as an employee. And that in itself says a lot about you. And that in itself might be just the difference when it comes to them being a referral for you and saying, you know what, this person was really committed to their own growth, even though they got laid off. I was really impressed by that.
Beautiful point. The other thing I wanted to say too is, you never know, even though that door has closed, how that person who maybe gave you the answer could help you open up the next one, because you will still need a referral one day. Maybe the next job will call your old job to see what kind of person you were. And so you do want to leave on those good terms. I think that is a great way to walk out the door. All right, now, you guys, I could only talk to Dr. Warl for a brief period of time, but she has so much more information that she can get out to you. You can, look at more of her work into tapping into your courage by going to margiewarl.com. And then remember that losing a job might feel like an ending, but it could be the beginning to something even better. We'll be right back.